The knife is a Spyderco Paramilitary 2 in K390. K390 is a steel made by Bowler. It's a variation of CPM 10V or A11. There's slight differences in the composition, but essentially, looking at K390, what I think to myself is it's basically 10V with a little bit less wear resistance and a little bit higher toughness. With 10V, what you're talking about is 9.75 vanadium and no tungsten. With K390, you're talking about 9% vanadium and 1 point of tungsten. So lower the vanadium by 0.75% and throw 1% of tungsten in there. They have at K390 has a little bit less chromium as well. 10V has 5.25% chromium and K390 has 4.15. K390 also has cobalt and more moly in it. The other thing about K390 is Bowler puts it through their third generation powdered metallurgy microclean process. So it is said that that will increase the toughness as well. I have read that K390 has toughness similar to M4. I'm not sure that that's the case. I mean, with K390, you're still talking about a 10V class steel with 9% vanadium in it. So it is up there in alloy content and it's run fairly hard. So that's going to affect the toughness regardless. I mean, it's not going to be a super tough steel. But as far as the performance of K390 is concerned, the way I look at it, again, is basically 10V with a step less edge retention and a step higher toughness. In the past, I have tested 10V against a number of steels, S110V, Maximet, really put stuff through the paces. And I've done some testing with K390. I would think that K390 would be around S110V in performance, in edge retention, but with significantly higher toughness than S110V. S110V, you're talking 2.8 carbon, 15.25 chromium. So a stainless steel, but that chromium, it's going to lower the toughness of the steel. 9% vanadium, niobium, 3% niobium in there, 2.25 moly, and 2.5 cobalt. So S110V is not a tough steel. Nobody's making an argument for that. In fact, as far as user reports go, most people talk about S110V having major problems with chipping and breaking. I think that's probably oftentimes user error. But S110V is not a tough steel. The other steels in this range, I mean, you're talking up above S90V with K390. It's in that neighborhood of steels that's up there in performance. I don't think it's going to outperform Maximet. Maximet just has too much going on. 6% vanadium, 13% tungsten, 10% cobalt, 2.15 chromium, or I'm sorry, 2.15 carbon, and 4.75 chromium. And Maximet is usually run really, really hard, upper 60s. So I think that unless something's being done wrong, unless there's some problem with the steel or with the edge or with the sharpening in the comparison, I think Maximet is definitely going to have an edge retention advantage over K390. I think K390 would probably be around S110V. S110V, from my testing, from what I've seen, is a step behind 10V. And that's kind of where K390 lands. You could make the argument, well, why don't you go ahead and test it? But quite frankly, people want testing done because they want to know, if I buy this knife and it's my knife, is my knife going to outcut this other knife? And I'm at a point where I look at that and I think to myself that the decision is going to be made based on what you're doing with it. If you pick up a knife in K390 and you drop the angle on the edge and you sharpen it properly, it's going to outcut 10V with a higher angle on the edge, whether you use the right abrasives or not. I mean, the advantage you get from one steel to the next there's a difference there, but there's also a certain degree of responsibility on the end user. I hinted at this in one of my last videos, but the biggest contributing factor that the end user, the biggest influence they have over the performance of their knife is the sharpening. All aspects of the sharpening. So edge angle, edge finish, abrasives used. But that's going to have a bigger impact. People get hung up on what steel will outlast another on paper, and they're missing an important aspect of it, and that is you need to do your due diligence with giving the knife the opportunity to perform as good as it can. K390 is an interesting steel. It sharpens really, really well. I mean, it really takes a nice edge. Again, you're talking low chromium, 4.15. So you don't have that clogging up the steel matrix. It's run in the, I think, low to mid 60s. So it's fairly hard. The vanadium content is there. A little bit of tungsten is there. It sharpens really, really well. Similar to M4. I mean, in fact, what we've seen so far in the knife community, at least as far as from Spyderco, production model wise, we've seen the Police 4 come out in K390 and a Sprint Run Urban. There may have been one or two other releases in K390, but those are the two that stand out to me. And I reviewed both, and I like both, but through carry and use, I really found that for me, the Urban was a little bit too small and the Police 4 was a little bit too big. So I was really hoping that Spyderco would put out K390 in a model that was more fitting to what I wanted in my everyday carry. I think the PM2 is an absolute excellent option for that. Now, this is an exclusive. This is a Bento Box shop exclusive. So Bento Box is the only place you can get it. Pretty reasonably priced. Didn't have any complaint or argument about that. I've done a lot of business with Bento Box. I don't mind shopping there. They're a little bit heavy on the shipping costs, but that's fine. I don't have a real big argument with that. One of the things I like about Bento Box is stuff tends not to sell out in 3 minutes. So people complain about their prices being a little bit high, and people complain about their shipping. But if that keeps enough people away that somebody like me can actually successfully get the order, then fine, I'll take it. I don't mind a little bit of extra cost on there. It doesn't bother me. When the Police 4 came out, people were calling K390 the M4 killer, probably because of how it sharpens, and maybe the fact that it's said that the toughness is similar to M4. Again, I'm not sure that statement about the toughness is correct. I think that's, I don't know, maybe it's pushing a little bit. I'm not sure. But what I will say is I think that of the steels in the upper end of edge retention, K390 is probably the most well-balanced of them as far as toughness and edge retention and all that. It really I like the combination that you're getting there of all things considered with the steels. So if you look at other steels in that neighborhood, I mean, 10V, S110V, then you've got the upper side of it, like Maximet, 15V, Rex 121. You really start to get into steels that they're good steels, and steels like 15V, Maximet, Rex 121 will hold an edge longer than K390, but they don't have the toughness and the stability that K390 has. And with K390, you're not talking about a steel that's a slouch in the edge retention department. It should be really high up there. And that coupled with the stability and the toughness makes me look at it and think to myself, how much do you really need? So as far as it being a well-rounded steel is concerned, I really prefer K390 from that aspect. I really prefer 10V as well. I mean, 10V is great. Also, K390 has a small step in toughness. This is a small knife, small folder. I don't really think it's going to be an issue. In getting the knife, ordered it from Bento Box. It showed up. I like the color of the scales. I think that the scale color is fine. The blade was done well. The sharpening was okay. The knife was very sharp. The action was a little bit stiff in the pivot. And I tried at first just to adjust it with a screwdriver, and I couldn't break free the Loctite. What I ended up doing was setting the knife down on the table, putting a screwdriver in, holding the screwdriver with pliers, holding the knife and spinning the screwdriver with the pliers, and that allowed me to break the Loctite in the pivot and make the adjustments that I wanted to make. Once I made those adjustments, the action on the knife is just perfect. I couldn't be happier with it. It's exactly how I want it to be, and I'm very, very pleased with it. I wanted to do some cutting for this video. I wanted to get a little bit of footage. So I worked with several different materials using the factory edge, and the performance of this knife was just outstanding. I really, really enjoy the PM2. I really enjoy the ergonomics of it and the blade geometry and the way that the knife functions. I think that it does a really good job. I've done cutting on things like boards with a lot of different knives from a lot of different makers, and the PM2 really stands out as a performer to me in that aspect. I've had some interesting conversations about the Paramilitary 2 and the ergonomics of the knife. It's my opinion that the ergonomics of the knife are outstanding. I don't think I could ask for something better from a production folding knife meant for EDC as far as ergonomics are concerned. At any rate, the knife performed very well with the cutting. There was no chipping, no problems with the edge. And again, the ergonomics to me on this model are fine. After the cutting was done, I wanted to sharpen the knife and I wanted to get it in my pocket. I wanted to use Veneve's diamond water stones on it, finishing with the OCB stones. I've still been using them quite a bit, trying to see what I can find with those stones and enjoying them very much. Started on the knife, starting very coarse, making my way through a progression with the stones. K390 is not bogged down by unnecessary elements in the steel, and it sharpens very, very well, high hardness. It really takes a nice edge, similar to M4. I mean, M4 takes a super aggressive, very keen edge, and what I have found is that K390 does as well. In the past, I've always run it fairly coarse, but working with these stones, with these diamond water stones, and the fact that they're the OCB stones, the 800 and 1200, what you're talking about is getting down to a 3 to 2 micron stone. It really brings the fineness of the edge up. Maybe the fact that, if I compare using those stones, if I make a comparison between, say, K390 and S110V or S90V, there is a difference in the edge that the knife takes. And maybe that has to do with the chromium content of the steel. I mean, S90V is 14% chromium, S110V is 15.25, and really S110V is really loaded up. I mean, S90V it's 2.3 carbon, 14% chromium, 1% moly, 9% vanadium. So it's a fairly basic recipe there. S110V has a lot more going on with cobalt and niobium, and but K390 seems to be not all that complicated. Now, K390 still has 2% cobalt, a little bit of silicon, 3.75 moly, but still, it sharpens very, very well. And it stands out to me in that aspect. After the stones, I wanted to strop the knife. This is a strop that was sent to me by a fellow sharpener on Instagram named Ohio Apex. And me and Ohio Apexing, we talk sometimes, talk about steels, talk about sharpening. And we were having a discussion one night, and he asked me for my address. And for whatever reason, at the time, I assumed that he was asking me for my address relative to a pass around. I gave him my address, and he kind of changed the subject and just went with it, and that was that. And I didn't think a whole lot of it. I think I asked him a few days later why he had asked for it and what was coming, and he said, here's a tracking number. And what showed up was a gift. So this is a double-sided strop that he sent me. The leather used on it is sole leather. So sole like your shoe. It's very well made. The leather's very smooth. It works very good. It holds the compound very well. And the strop is very high quality. I'm enjoying it very much. What I decided to use on the strop is 1 micron on one side and 1/10 of a micron on the other. And I used it for this sharpening because I wanted it. I mean, I've been trying to get some use in on the strop anyway, but I'm due to make myself some new strops just for my own uses. So I figured I would throw this into the mix. Starting on the 1 micron, working with that. Wasn't much problem with the burr. K390 can have an aggressive burr, but being that I'm dealing with the stone I'm finishing on is a 3-2 micron and not diamond plates, I can do some burr reduction stuff at the end on the stones before moving over to the strop, and it wasn't an issue. After the 1 micron, I finished with the 0.1 micron. The edge that this knife took was just ridiculous. It really gave me trouble getting good hair whittling footage because the knife was so sharp. It was just blowing through the hairs. It was just taking them right in half. I really had to be subtle with my approach. I eventually got good footage, but I did have to work for it. The knife was actually whittling hairs both ways at the end of the sharpening. So it's a testament to K390 and how well the steel sharpens. I'm very pleased with this model. I was really hoping for a long time that Spyderco would take something in K390 and put it out. I was hoping that we would see that, and I'm very pleased with this Paramilitary 2. I think that it came out really well. I'm hoping that we see more use of K390 from Spyderco. K390, 10V, even K294 would be good. So steel's in that family. But the knife is excellent. I'm glad that Bento Box Shop decided to put it out, and I'm glad that I picked one up.